Of course, because he started sounding like Lil Jon, like when he came on. So
You got to understand something here, okay? When I first met met Billistic, I'm just gonna call you Billistic here. But when
Go
I
for
first
it, man.
met Billistic here, man, I tell you, man, this guy was just great energy right off the back. And when I know people with great energy, I fucking get stoked, right? Just crazy, crazy stuff. But before we start, I gotta introduce everyone here, okay? First, the Harley Barbie, Catherine, right here, Bill. This girl's awesome. She's been my co-host here on the show for since we started.
Cool,
So
man.
we're only like 13 episodes in or some shit.
Right on.
Then it's me, and for the listeners, we got Billistic right here, the man of the hour. If you're in Pennsylvania, you need some firearm training. This is the guy. I kid you not. I first stepped on there. I'm like, crap, man. I'm about to make this target look like Swiss cheese, and I did. But with some fine tuning and some like just mentorship at that moment, even for life philosophical stuff, it was crazy.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
yeah, these got tight.
Yeah, well, you put in the work. You showed up, you came ready to learn, you put in the work, and you tighten your groups up to a fist size group, which is really like all I ask for when working with newer students, man. And you did a great job. So like I just gave you the tools, and you did the work to get it to where it needed to be, man.
He's humble, man. I love him. I'm telling you, I love him. This guy, it was insane because there's like, I get in my head a lot of times, right?
Yeah,
And what he did is that he was able to like pick those things out. Like there were things that I was doing that I did not notice. Is like, hey, you're doing this, and then when it started registering in my head because he kept catching and correcting it. Even now, I'm dry firing at home. Like my wife thinks I'm
awesome.
crazy. So I'm out here doing that, and I'm starting to feel it. I'm like, okay, it's like he's by my side at home. Like, watch your arms. But this is awesome. So, Bill, a little bit about this, man. We're just gonna cover a couple of things. Where there's
Okay.
really no agenda here. I kind of want to just pick at your brain. She has questions too because she doesn't own an AR yet, and I've been
Okay.
convincing her for the longest that she needs to fucking get.
oh, I'm gonna get one.
Yeah. So everybody already knows that I went the cheap route. I went with a PSA. I love my PSA. I'm okay with that. But she's going with what is it? Daniel Defense. She's
Okay.
bougie. Yeah, if she would, bro, she'll fucking walk around with a golden AK. Like I kid you not.
I would like my dream gun is like an AR-15 that's like just gold plated. Like I want like the
See,
drug
told you.
lord AR-15
Whatever, man.
with
Yeah,
like
she's
little
from-
diamonds and shit. That's
That's
what
because
I
she's from
want.
Miami, man. She's in Miami right now, and that's where she lives,
Oh,
right?
nice.
So it's that I think it's that drug lord like
Oh my
influence
god,
from
I
Miami.
cannot.
Hey,
But
man, dude, as long as it goes bang, that's really all that matters at the end of the day.
Exactly.
facts, man. Let me ask you, Bill. Would you get a golden plated firearm? Period.
I wouldn't. That's not my thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I would just for I don't know just cause
I'm more of an OD green kind of guy. Like most of my wardrobe is a khaki and OD green, so or black,
Yeah.
one of the two.
Do you radican your rifles and stuff?
I don't actually. I don't. I just haven't had a need to. I do. I do just tend to kind of offset the colors. I usually throw OD green, or I put some type of a M81 woodland camouflage on my firearms.
Nice.
But never rattle can. No.
See, I gotta be more disciplined because I have this bad habit that whenever I have something, it needs more, right? So one seriously, I get bored. One day I was just bored. I'm like, I'm going to Walmart. I went to Walmart, got like 2 different spray cans, threw them
Yeah.
up there, and it's figure it out.
Yeah,
I like
man,
them.
just
Crazy.
have fun with it.
Yeah, man, it's a little sticky still, but
It happens. It's spray paint, dude. It's going to be a little sticky.
Yeah, so we got Bill on the show right now. We're gonna cover more like 2A related stuff here, especially right now because things are really hot. So we want to have this conversation because I feel like there's a lot of either sugarcoating or running around, beating around the bush in certain things, right? So I just want to see your perspective, and we just have a good conversations here. But before we do that, if you don't mind, just giving a little bit about yourself to the audience. What is it you do? What's a little bit of your background and what's your purpose for what you do? Because what you're doing is just not simply instructing how to shoot a gun. You have a purpose behind it.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
Yeah. So, taking the words from my friend Ian, who owns a company called Rue Nation. He's a phenomenal firearm instructor, a phenomenal individual. One of the things he said in a class that I took from him was, it's not about making good shooters, it's about making better humans. That's a big part of one of the reasons why I started Billistic Consulting, is for a need to kind of be a better example for the firearms community altogether.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of machismo, a lot of bravado in the firearms industry, and I think that kind of turns a lot of people away from guns in general. Where I try to make a more inclusive environment and welcoming environment to bring people into the community, to kind of show people, like, firearms is more of a common sense thing and a responsibility thing more than anything. And you might go on Instagram, you might go on YouTube, and you see certain individuals, certain characters, but that's really what they are at the end of the day. They're a persona. They're not. It's something that they put on for the camera. It's not necessarily a good representation or a truthful representation of the firearms community, in my opinion. And really, that's what my purpose is to kind of be a more um, genuine, authentic example to the
Mm.
firearms community.
Yeah, yeah. I feel that. I really feel that because I've purchased my first firearms last year, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just getting myself involved with more and more people in this whole community. And I tell you, man, it's been nothing but good people. People who are willing to help. People who are literally people of integrity, and all this stuff. Humble people for the most part,
Yeah.
and it's amazing, because when you like, especially now, I'm seeing all over Twitter, or Twitter's just a disaster. It's a menacing place to be, and it's definitely
I'm
for the
sure.
retarded. So I'm on there and I hear how people talk about people in the gun community or gun
Mm-hmm.
owners, and I'm just like, you guys have that totally wrong. Like
Oh
legit, if
yeah.
if we were to get a lot of these people who are making this insane claims of gun owners are obsessed, gun owners are this, they're crazy, whatever, don't care for life. I'm like, you're totally wrong. If you were to get around these people that I've met, like Billistic and the others, what's the name of the range again?
Lapuenzo Fish and
Yes.
Game.
So, like the gentleman we met over there, great
Mm-hmm.
people, fantastic. I mean, you will see that all humble, all care, all we're professional about the way we're doing, and they're fun as fuck. I mean, it's kind
Yeah, man. Specifically in Pennsylvania, where I'm at, there is a very deep rooted. I don't want to call them fuds, because I don't want to hurt the old bloods' feelings, but there are a lot of older individuals who've been in the firearms community. Your NRA types,
of.
who are very kind of anti-modern Second Amendment culture. And what I mean by modern Second Amendment is like people showing up to the range dressed like, professional soldiers, or military personnel in general. They're showing up with Kevlar, they're showing up with
Mhm.
body armor. Some people are buying night vision devices now. People are training to a higher standard, they're holding themselves to a higher standard, and they're showing up to the range to develop a professional skill set.
Mhm.
And Pennsylvania has a very long rooted history of NRA types, older individuals who put restraints on the community, like very low, like non-rapid fire, for example. Like, you
Yeah.
can only shoot one round like every 3 seconds, and you're really not going to get proficient on running a gun fast or quick, shooting at that cadence. I mean, you can get proficient on a gun in terms of like your grip, your sight, your trigger, which I call like the three prime fundamentals. You can get really proficient at that shooting slow. But when you really want to get down to the nitty gritty and really put the paces in and get really proficient in your gun by running it fast and hard, you need an environment that allows you to do that so you can be as proficient as possible.
Mhm.
So if you ever get to a point where you need to defend yourself, you revert to your highest level of training,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and being able to train at that pace, and have that high level of training, you'll be, you increase your survivability, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You brought up some good points there, and there's actually one part I really want to point out, because I've seen people who are that type, and not even the older ones. I've seen younger people as well. There's this one guy; he's an influencer. I believe he was a Marine,
Mm-hmm.
and he made a video. He's pretty angry about it. Civilians using, like, the whole Kevlar, the body kit, all that stuff like that, the
Yeah.
knots, because they're not soldiers, right? They're just civilians using this gear.
Right.
You're a former military. I believe you're
Yeah.
Marines as well, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Now,
So
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you want me to go into that? I kind of
Yeah.
went off into
No,
a
it's all good,
tangent.
bro. So you know what happened? He shaved down his beard. I just noticed
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, I
That's what it
shaved
is.
my
So
beard
I was
down.
like,
Everyone's been complimenting me, and they're like, "Dude, you look like you've lost weight." I was like, "Nah, I just shaved my beard. That's it."
yeah, it looks good, bro. I keep it long to cover the double chin I have right
Yeah.
now. Nobody needs to know about that. But yeah, I want to know your opinions on that because like me personally, at first I wasn't sure how to feel about it, but now I look at the Second Amendment not just as a way to own guns, but as a responsibility, and that responsibility comes with training and all this other stuff and whatnot. But
Yeah.
I want to see what you think.
So, to kind of start it off, my name's Bill Kerner. I'm a former United States Marine. I served from 2008 to 2012. I was with 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines out in Hawaii. I did, my 4-year enlistment, deployed a couple times to Afghanistan. My first deployment was to the Nawa district of Helmand. And my second deployment was to Gamshir, which is like right on the border of Pakistan, I believe, if my geography is correct. My first deployment was like every infantryman's dream, every Marine Corps rifleman's dream. It was a very kinetic deployment, lots of firefights. The longest firefight I was in was 10 hours long
Jesus.
in February in 2010. Um, and then we were also part of the assault on Marja as well, which was like, I don't know. Sorry, my dog's losing it right
It's
now.
all good.
But I don't know exactly how big the assault was compared to some of the other urban assaults, but I think it was like the largest military push on a urbanized city since like Fallujah.
Wow.
So it was a pretty big operation, pretty intense for the most part for some people. Not as intense for me as like 1-6, which was another unit that was in that AO. They became combat ineffective like 5 or 6 months into their deployment, and they had to rip out early.
Mhm.
Like that's how heavy the fighting was for them when they were there.
Mhm.
So after that, after my time in the military, I kind of got out, spent some time in Hawaii living it up, uh, and moved back to Pennsylvania in 2013. Got weirdly enough, I started working in the film industry
Oh,
as
nice.
a G&E guy, which is just a fancy term of saying grip and electric. So I worked on some films, music videos, and stuff like that. And I did that for about 3 years before I kind of got tired of the community there.
Mhm.
Um, and then, I only got back in the firearms recently, like in 2018. And then I bought my first handgun in 2019.
Mhm.
And then I kind of just hit the ground running from there. And then I would say in 2020, that was like right at the beginning of COVID. Excuse me. I went to the SIG Academy and went to a 5-day instructor course there, which was their patrol rifle instructor course, which is like it's very focused on law enforcement curriculum.
Mhm.
And I went through the class with like a ton of SWAT officers, some former Green Beret guys, and then got my certification from them, and then spent a year training with different instructors, like Rick from Achilles Heel Tactical, Donovan from Point One Tactics, JJ Ricazza, who is a phenomenal competition USPSA shooter. Um, who else? A bunch of different instructors. And then got into competing myself. So I've done USPSA Steel Challenge, and I'm a B class Steel Challenge shooter. And I was just like, cool, man. I've learned some things. I've put some knowledge to the test and competition,
Mhm.
and then I took the instructor certification and then started Billistic Consulting as a way to kind of build community around the Second Amendment and kind of try to drive the culture in a different direction that was more inclusive and welcoming to newer individuals.
Mhm. Mhm. And now, like, so I didn't know that about him. Okay, so this to me is like holy shit. It's like it's crazy. And guys, this is important because what he just shared, really, what it tells me is that what he's going to speak about, what we're going to speak about, there's a lot of value here, right? There's good perspective here, right? And we're going to have more people on to see different ideas on it. But back to like the question we were asking, Bill. So when it comes to like the civilian use of like, let's say the military grade weapon, let's say the vest, the belts,
Right.
the nods, all that stuff. As you as a former Marine who has a lot of experience, right? How do you personally feel civilians utilizing those stuff and actually training with the stuff? Because there's this I've heard other instructors who are not crazy. Well, not instructors, but other people who are vets who are not crazy about that whatsoever.
Uh, I mean, dude, I'm a big believer in personal liberty, man.
Yeah.
Like, I weirdly enough, like I'm a pro-choice guy. I'm pro the individual's choice, right?
Mm,
So, like, some people who are conservative might not, like that, but I'm also a big believer in self responsibility too, and a part of self responsibility is being able to defend yourself when the time comes, if it
mm,
comes. Even if it's a 0.001% chance, there's still a percentage there that it might happen.
yeah.
So being prepared for that slight percentage or that slight chance that something bad might happen is a good thing in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think it's great when people are out there training with the equipment that they're buying and spending their money on and then using it in productive ways. And they're not just buying this stuff to like look good for the gram and then it sits in the closet and then they never get any repetitions on it. So like
Mm,
people who are out there actually like training with the gear that they have, I think it's great. And I think there's a lot of good examples and good role models out there on Instagram. As much as I kind of hate social media and what it's turned the gun community into, I think there's still a lot of good examples out there that people can look to.
yeah.
Um, you know, for example, like Achilles Heel Tactical on Instagram, Rune Nation on Instagram, Point One Tactics, JJ Rikaza, a friend of mine, Sam Callahan, who's up there in the Poconos. There's tons of great examples. Bull Creek is another one. Great instructors, great examples, great leaders in the community. And, you know, I think it's just to your question, I think it's great that people are out there putting the reps in and putting the work in to use it. I'm all
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
And that's a big thing that you pointed out because there are people who just buy stuff just to show it off, right? Just like,
Yeah.
hey, look, I have a whole kit. Take the gram out of the
What
range
is the
somewhere.
point of
And
that? I've
Yeah.
it's too
never
much.
understood that.
It's just people are just different, man. When it comes to social media, they just want those likes to rack up, right?
Yeah, I think
And
that's
Yeah.
a good
yeah,
critique. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I've seen it in multiple. Like, it's just not even in the gun community. I mean, even in other stuff like
Oh, all over the
musicians.
place.
I've seen
All over the
people.
place.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
I have a guitar. I don't post pictures with my guitar or anything because I stopped playing it. People say I'm good at it. Me, I feel like I'm trash at it. So I'm like, I'm not gonna post it up there just to be like, yeah, I'm playing a beautiful song. Like, I'm not gonna give
Yeah.
it's just my personal stuff there. But to what you were saying too, like, I agree. I think it's really important that these people who are buying it, but actually putting the reps in, right? Getting that training in and whatnot. I haven't even bought anything crazy because I'm like, I just need to get used to the holster, the
Yeah,
belt
man.
stuff now. But once I get myself situated, then Bill's my guy. So I know, hey, what should I get, man? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I'll give you tons of options, dude.
Oh, dude, we gotta give some tips for Catherine right here to get a rifle. But even before we get in that, let's keep tackling this a little bit
Yeah,
here.
sure.
So now people are getting kitted up. I personally believe that's very important to do so. One, to defend yourself, yes, because you're mentioning it's a small percentage of people that you might have to utilize something. Personally,
Mhm.
myself, I've experienced that growing up. I've seen it. I've seen other people who've experienced it in different degrees, different levels. Some tragic, some they're just a little crazy and whatnot. And it could happen to anyone, right? Catherine, you know my story a little bit. I was 8. Look, I was 8 years old with my entire family. We were all taken hostage for hours in Ecuador. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
something we would have never expected.
Yeah,
But
it's
it
rough.
happened. Yeah, it happened. I've seen other friends who've same thing, but to a higher degree, and you wouldn't have expect that. So to be prepared, I don't think it's living in fear because that's another thing I see a lot. It's like, oh, you live your life in fear. That's the big argument I hear from people who are pushing gun control. You must live in so much fear if you feel like you have to have firearms and guns and stuff like that. And it's to
Can
me, it's
can
like
I
not that.
interrupt you real quick?
Yeah, go right
Like
ahead,
to
please.
to your to your point there, I think there's a difference between paranoia and preparedness, right?
Exactly.
Like it's one
Come
thing
on.
to be paranoid, but then it's another thing to be prepared. And like what I mean by that is if, a person who might be paranoid is someone who like thinks that everyone's out to get them. They're always looking over their shoulder. They're always hyper aware, hyperactive, and like just paranoid that something bad is going to happen at any moment, at any time.
Mm-hmm.
But being prepared is like having a certain level of confidence that, if something bad does happen, you can literally flick the switch like that and take care of the things that you need to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to process things in your mind and the level of importance when shit hits the fan. So I think
Absolutely.
there's like a difference. I think there's a difference in paranoia and preparedness, where paranoia, I think they probably both share a level of fear, I'm sure,
Yeah.
but paranoia is like a whole different level. And then which there are certain individuals out there who have an extreme level of paranoia. And there are other people who have a very healthy level of preparedness, in my opinion.
Yeah. And it's crazy because 2020 revolutionized my mind when it comes to all of this, right? Because what happened in 2020 for all of us is something that nobody here would expect, right? Did you guys expect that to be like that?
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
From one day to another, I'm like, yeah, I'm working, and next day I'm like, holy crap, the world just shut down. Like it's insane, man. It's insane. So it kind of shows you like being prepared is smart, because when that was going on, for some reason the world decided to hoard what is it, toilet paper, like if it was fucking gold. It's insane. I was mad. I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to wipe my ass no more if these people keep taking this shit.
Well, I think that's a good example of paranoia and fear, right? Like no one, when COVID first happened, right? When COVID first happened, no one knew anything about it. All we knew is the initial reports. And, quite frankly, I think the way that the way COVID was communicated to us was very irresponsible. A lot of speculation. Like I remember saying that, when I first went back to work, it was mask and gloves, because if you touched anything, you were going to get COVID. And then they realized like, well, that's not how the virus is transmitted. You know what I mean? So it's just like, you have these things where it's like, oh my God, this is I guess like, it's also like, I guess you could argue that's a level of preparedness too. It's like, cause you don't know exactly how it's being transmitted or what's happening. So
I should spray myself with Lysol.
People washing their vegetables, their produce,
Bro, Amazon would drop off a box. I'm sorry, Amazon would drop off a box and all over. Like, come on.
Yeah, but people, again, like you can take that comparison of paranoia and preparedness, and they both come from a certain level of fear. And then that individual can take that to the next level. I say it's all, but again, I think it just comes down to the level of, I guess, like mental fortitude an individual has to be prepared for a situation, to not like lose perspective of like what matters in those situations, right? Like you were saying, people like freaking the hell out and then ripping toilet paper because people were just buying up toilet paper. So everyone had to buy toilet paper. I was like, I'm not buying toilet paper. I bought a freaking bidet and installed a bidet on my freaking toilet, dude. You know what I mean?
Wait, hold on. We actually, I was living in Staten Island. The same thing we did over there. Yo, let me tell you, man. This sounds so inappropriate. This is like no homo, whatever. But that tickle, man. It gets all the poop out. It feels good, bro.
It's a phenomenal feeling, man. I'll tell you what.
Hey, if you guys don't have one, get a bidet. I'm about to actually tell my wife we're gonna order one soon. All right, but no, it's crazy, man. Because
that's upper middle class problems.
Hey, bidets are actually very affordable nowadays.
Yes, they are, and they're not very hard to install neither. They're very easy.
No, they're not.
So, guys, get that tinkle down there, man. It helps. But no, it's insane because again, 2020. I remember when it first happened. One of the first things I did, and I guess this could have been more of a side of paranoia, because the way it was communicated seemed like the world was going to end at some point, like bodies being loaded up in trucks. Holy shit! So what's the first thing I did? I bought a fucking bow from Amazon, right? And anybody who's into archery and listening to this, they're probably like, "What the fuck?" Not a good idea. So I had no knowledge of how to draw back, anything. I'm glad that it didn't explode in my face, because I did a lot of dumb shit. But when I got that and I'm looking throughout, we're passing on the moments that are happening. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? It's going to be time to start considering to be prepared, not to live in the fear of, holy shit, the world's going to end tomorrow. But if the world could just shut down from one day to another, and then we have all these what I look as extreme actions happening from our government and different groups of people.
Yeah.
Being prepared does not seem like a bad idea whatsoever. Now, I say don't live your life in fear where you're preventing yourself from progressing and building a business or building something, but don't turn a blind eye on preparing just in case something does happen, right?
Yeah, and I think having a level of preparedness also helps diminish a level of fear that an individual might feel at any specific time, right? Like again, it's that level of confidence I mentioned earlier, to
Yeah.
where like if you're prepared to a certain point and you have that confidence to be like, okay, if shit hits the fan, I have the mental fortitude to kind of like break things down into levels of importance and handle those situations as they come and how they come. So
Mm.
I think like being prepared is kind of a way of having that sense of security, that sense of safety that you can fall back onto if shit hits the fan. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think people who are I think people who fail to be prepared have a certain, like ignorance is bliss, right? Like if you think you live in some, like I think there are some people out there who think that like America is this fucking utopia. Can I curse? I don't know if I can
Yeah.
curse.
Hell
Oh,
yeah. Come on.
Okay,
absolutely.
okay. I
Let's
think there are a
fucking
lot
go,
of,
bro.
like people don't like, some people I think truly believe that America is like some utopian, right?
Mm.
And if you believe that, you probably live in a bubble, right? So like not everybody is having a good time in the
Yeah.
world, you know what I mean? So it's like you got to be prepared for when bad shit happens if
Of
it
course.
happens.
Of course. Yeah. You
Even
know.
like, and yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No. No. Like I agree 100%. I genuinely believe we live in a great country, right? Well, there's so much potential here. Unfortunately, it's a lot going on that's trying to take that away, right? Like
Yeah.
I compared the lifestyle I had here and the lifestyle I had when I lived in Ecuador. I mean, I'll tell you what, I do miss Ecuador. I do want to go visit, but I will never leave this country. You know what I'm saying? Like I see the level of liberty we've been promised here. The things we can do here, even now that we can do here that we can't do in Ecuador. Try buy an AR-15 in Ecuador with the amount
Yeah.
of crime, kidnappings, and just all this insane stuff out there, right? So, experiencing that, being here, I'm like, look, this country's not, it's not in utopia, right? And I feel like a lot of people with the same thing have the idea that it is, and they're living in this bubble where they're like, just give this up, give that up, whatever, whatever. And I'm like, you guys don't know what you're doing. I mean, there's other countries that wish they had the things we can have here to be able to either protect ourselves or say what we want to say, because you could say some crazy shit here and that so you could get canceled, but your government, well, I don't know, nowadays is a little choppy, but
Yeah.
other countries you'll go missing. Catherine actually, her family's from Cuba, and I don't know if it's. I'm sorry, Catherine, if I'm laughing.
No,
But
you
I
could
just
you could talk
her
about it.
her
I
her
don't.
dad.
Yeah.
No, her dad said some crazy shit, and he was put to jail for it. Right? What was it
Yeah.
that he said?
He basically said that that Fidel Castro's mother is a piece of shit for giving birth to a piece of shit monster like Fidel Castro. And then there was an informant, because in the communist regimes there's an informant in every single block, and it's insane
Yep.
to even think that that's even a thing, but apparently it is. And so someone ratted on him. He's been running from the Cuban military for the absolute longest. I mean, this was when he was in Cuba, because he didn't want to serve the Cuban regime, because literally you're not doing anything. All you're doing is you're in the farmland, like literally cutting sugar cane, and you're serving the regime. You're not doing anything productive. And basically when you're 18 years old, men automatically have to go in and serve. And what he did was just basically run from it. So he had that, and then basically he said that was like the topping on the cake. They came to go find him, and basically they gave him 7 years instead of 15, because he made a deal with the regime that he was going to leave Cuba as soon as he was released, and never came back. My mom's the only one that's allowed to go there. But
See?
but Cuba actually had gun control laws that were in place, like the firearms registry. And then later, Fidel Castro, he came in 1959, and then he was just talking about just more gun control. He's like, why does anybody need this, especially when the government is for the people? And then later, after he came in, like a few days later, he started confiscating guns, and then he started executing people that were not with him. He killed about 141,000 Cubans and all that. It's like People don't know, man.
Bro,
You give these people an inch, they're gonna take.
Yeah.
They're
bro,
gonna take everything.
The Cubans in Miami, bro, they know what's up. They know what's up. The Cubans, when I was I wasn't a Trump supporter at first, right? And when he was running for 2020, I did vote for him. But when I saw in Miami prior to me supporting Trump, I see all the Cubans, a ton of Cubans rocking the flags, the American flag, and all that. I just never understood it. I mean, now we're in 2022. I definitely understand why they're like that about the country in general,
Yeah.
because they know what it is over there. I mean, Cuba had the whole ordeal last year, and what they defend themselves with, stick and stones,
Sticks and stones,
Same
and
thing Venezuela. Venezuela is not,
Mhm.
my best friend is from Venezuela, and the shit that goes down there is insane too. A lot of these countries are right. So to your point, Bill, it's like, yeah, this is not a utopia, but we can't take for granted what we do have or what we can have. You know.
Yeah. And I think those are both interesting perspectives, right? And again, like people who live in America, I truly think they take their personal liberty for granted, so much to the
100%.
point where they're willing to sacrifice their liberties for a false sense, in my opinion, of comfort, security, and safety, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's really, I'm always been a firm believer that any law that is designed to take away personal responsibility makes a weaker society.
Say it again. Say it again. I feel like that needs to be heard
I
one
love
more
that.
time. Say that again. Shit, I need to write this down and quote it. Say it again.
Like I said, I'm a very big, firm believer that any law that is made that is designed to take away personal responsibility creates a weaker society.
Ooh, I got goosebumps.
Because here's
Like,
the thing.
agree.
I mean, this is like my personal opinion on these laws. I mean, here's the thing. It's like you're stopping the law-abiding citizens, in my opinion, because criminals are
Right.
criminals. They don't
Yeah.
have any regard for human life, and they're criminals because they break laws. So I don't understand the point of this. I mean, from your perspective, I don't know if you agree, but that's my stance on it, because it just make sense,
I don't agree in prohibition in any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's gun, alcohol, booze, drugs, right? The war on drugs, for example, is a failed experiment. And funny enough, the war on drugs was started by the CIA, who opened up freaking traffic chains from South America into poor black neighborhoods on the West Coast. And the crack epidemic. I when the Texas shooting happened, I did some research into the spike of gun crime in America, mostly homicides and mass shootings and stuff like that, not suicides, because gun suicides has been fairly steady in America for a long time, but gun crime specifically spiked a couple times in America. Once during the 1920s of the prohibition against alcohol, which created organized crime, and then the government created the NFA, which is the law we have now for like tax stamps for SBRs, fully automatic guns, and everything like that. But they created that to prevent criminals from buying fully automatic guns. So anyone who wanted to buy a fully automatic gun had to get the permission from the government, because these booze runners were basically outperforming the law enforcement that was trying to enforce prohibition. And then the American government's like, well, I guess we shouldn't try to tell citizens what they can and can't do. So they withdrew those laws. And then again, during the 1980s, 1990s, there was a huge spike in gun crime that has a correlation to the crack epidemic, and that's another reason why the assault weapons ban in 1994 was enacted, because they tried to curb the violence, which didn't happen. We still had gun violence, and I feel like if guns are part of a society and the base issue is violence, if you take guns away, you're still going to have violence.
Yeah.
But the output of that violence is going to change, right?
Yeah.
But now if you fast forward to today and you try to, let's say you ban all guns, you confiscate guns. What are you going to do then? You create a black market for firearms. Then you're going to have gun runners in America. It's going to happen. It will happen, because again, any example you have of prohibition in America, organized crime is created around it. So you're never, and like Catherine, right? How what you explained, um, you take guns away from law-abiding citizens, you're probably just going to see an increase of crime rates because there's no longer a deterrence for
Mm.
criminals to not commit crime. You
Yeah.
know, uh,
Yeah.
so I think what you'll see is a mass spike in violence again if guns become prohibited in America, especially since there's so many in circulation already.
Mm.
Like it wouldn't be hard for guns to end up in the wrong person's hands.
Yeah.
They already end up. Doesn't matter. We don't persecute people for straw purchases.
Yeah.
That I used to work in a gun shop.
Mm.
And you know who's the first line of defense for a straw purchase? Guys like me who are selling guns to people
Mm.
and like understanding what that a straw purchase looks like.
Mm.
Like there's tons of training and example about it. But like, if people who are the people who are selling guns need to be better educated on to stopping bad purchases
Yeah.
is really what it comes down to. But also I think that we have gun laws that are already in place that aren't being enforced either.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
don't know when the last time someone got persecuted for a straw purchase, or let's say someone who bought a gun for themselves and then it was in their cousin's car and their cousin's car got broken into and now they don't know where the gun is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I don't think there's I don't think there's much being done to enforce the laws that we already have. And they're just looking to throw more laws onto the books that make guns bad or prohibit it. And it's not really going to do anything.
It's not. And you know what? Some of these laws and stuff are just ridiculous. Like you mentioned NFAs, right? Yo, you could have an AR that's 16 inches with a regular buttstock and a vertical
Yeah.
grip, right? But if you get a one that's a shorter barrel, let's say like I have an 11 and a half, if I
Mm-hmm.
put that same grip on that foregrip on it and the buttstock on it, it's a problem, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the brace and the buttstock, I mean, I don't see much of a difference except the bottom being a little flimsy. I know there's a difference in purpose, but
Yeah.
like utilization and whatnot. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, these laws make no fucking sense whatsoever.
Well, that's the other side of the coin too. You have people making laws and legislations on firearms that don't understand firearms.
Yeah, that's big. That's really big.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of these people pushing gun control is the same thing. They just don't understand it. And even yeah,
Go ahead.
no, even to take a step above that, it's like what you were mentioning, the spikes in with gun violence and all this other stuff. And I'm just sitting here and I'm also thinking, it's like these people want to throw more laws. Actually, like you said, they want to throw more laws on us, right? They want to throw more laws, but we're not tackling the real issue that's happening here.
Yep.
What I'm seeing here is not a gun problem. What I see is what the bigger problem is. It's a mental health issue that's really fucking bad.
Yeah, and I would also even go further and say that it's a wealth disparity issue as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you look at the areas in America that have the worst gun crime,
Mm.
let's say like violent gun altercations, right? Like whether that's suicide, homicide, whatever it might be.
Mm.
And it's weird. So poor white neighborhoods have the highest suicide rates and poor black neighborhoods have the highest homicide rates.
Wow.
So like one thing that tells me is that areas that have like wealth disparity or areas of like extreme poverty in America have the highest gun issues in America.
Oh yeah.
And then you look at like blue cities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone posted something the other day where if you were to remove like the 5 most violent cities in America, America would be like 189th on the list of violent countries in the world.
Really? That's
Yeah.
crazy. I would love to see that. That's insane.
And
I wouldn't doubt it neither.
Yeah, and I think the cities that were on there was like I think it was Chicago, Philadelphia, LA, New York, and something else. They were all blue cities.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't want to like get super political and say if that's an issue, but or if that's the underlying cause. But I think at the root cause of violence in America, poverty is the biggest issue.
Yo, let me tell you something, man. I didn't come from golden spoons or any of that, right? The neighborhoods are growing. This is something that really bothers me because you say that and it's very true. So you're going to take away a lot of these people who are law-abiding citizens in these neighborhoods who use these as a means as defense.
And
When
make it harder for them to be able to get their
exactly,
hands on something to
look,
be able to protect
I
themselves.
wasn't
Yeah.
a saint growing up. I wasn't the craziest, thank God. But I had a lot of very good friends who weren't good people. I loved them to death at those times. I don't no connection to them now, but let me tell you, man, they had it and they had it on them all the time. You know, and some of them made victims of the wrong people. And it's just like that's what you're doing, bro. These people have it. They're gonna find a way. I've seen it, and I know that's gonna happen either way, right? They're not dumb. And what you're doing is that you're going to take away from the people who can defend themselves. Like I saw this video of a guy who broke into this woman's house. Like he was right behind her, just kicked the door in, and then you know did what he did with her. And I'm like, it's crazy because let's say she would have caught a whiff of that. Maybe not, but if she had a chance to fight and defend herself, damn well she should have taken that, right? I
Yeah.
look at states like New York. I lived in New York City, dude. It's crazy. From what or New Jersey too. From my understanding over there is that if somebody comes in your house, you have to retreat. You
Yeah.
got let me tell you, man. Again, where I grew up, you don't retreat. We from Florida, right, Catherine? We're from Florida. Do we retreat?
No.
Nah. You know what I'm saying? You come into our house, bro. Somebody's getting. I don't care if it's a pipe or a gun. You're getting laid down. If I'm not getting laid down,
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
That's crazy though that you can't do anything.
Bro, it's insane. Like New Jersey, I'm like, okay, I can't carry in New Jersey, but I tell you right now, I know for a fact when I'm in, like, if I go through Newark, or even if I here in PA when I go to Philadelphia, even though you can carry in Pennsylvania, um, you know people holding, bro. There's no
Oh
doubt in
yeah,
my mind.
dude.
Like,
People,
come on.
there are a ton of people in Philadelphia who carry illegally. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I say that out of like the condition of it being a law in Philadelphia
of
that you
course,
have
yeah.
to have a license to carry. But so many people carry guns illegally in Pennsylvania or in
Oh yeah,
Philadelphia. It happens all the time because, I mean, like these, dude. I
That's
mean, there's a reason
interesting.
why people. Yeah, there's a reason why people call it Philadelphia. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. It's bad. Over there. It's fucking.
you know,
bad.
it's a fucking rough city, man. It's a rough
Bro,
city.
it is
You know,
bad.
and it and like I'm not a sociologist. I'm not a social engineer. You know, like I don't know what the answer would be. But I think that I think if there is a lax sense of unified community, the more susceptible an area is to violence,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I agree. Yeah.
And like that saying, it takes a village, dude. And
Yeah.
I think like right now, the way that our political parties run their campaigns and how they're designed to polarize, um, both from both sides, Democrat, Republican,
Yeah.
Something that was interesting to me, I think Ronnie, you and I talked about this when we were at the range together, was like the whoever wins the political campaign for president, right, and they get
Mm-hmm.
elected president, the next candidates copy that individual, right? So like what happened when Obama became president? Everyone started to talk like Obama. Every single political candidate started to talk like Obama.
Yeah.
Same mannerisms, everything. Trump ran. Trump became president, and he pushed let's say like very radical views.
Mm-hmm.
I would say he piggybacked off of radical movements on the right to push his campaign. And then when the left ran, they did the same thing, and it's called like winner takes all politics. And now you have this thing where both sides of the fence are catering to the most extreme demographics
Yeah.
of their politics. And then now we have this polarizing issue where like people are creating an identity around their political party. Like
it's crazy.
you know what I'm saying? Like your identity is your political candidate.
It's insane. You know what's crazy? It's crazy that you say that because I almost fell into that. I'll admit that, and the reason why is because I got so angry at let's say at the left in this case. I got so angry with the threats, with the stuff they said about my children that weren't even born.
Oh yeah,
stuff
dude.
that was going on. So angry that I was falling into the camp until I was like, hold on. I'm an American, bro. Before anything, you know what I'm saying? I'm a registered Republican. Yes, that's where I vote for right now because that aligns more with my values.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but some of them do. And opposed to the left, that I really don't see that very much, right? So I'm gonna obviously go where my values, our family's
Right.
values,
Correct.
lies. But I'm not gonna put myself in a place where that's my identity. That's
Yeah.
everything I am. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know, it's crazy because so I was talking to a guy who works, and we're gonna have him on here. He works with Doug Mastriano, okay, who's running for governor for Republican Party, and I'm like, all right, you know, I'd love to work with you guys. And we were getting to talk to each other and everything. And I told him flat out, I was like, look, you know, I don't know Mastriano. He seems like a great guy. I don't know him so very well. I've heard good things about him from others. And to be quite frank with you, you know, as long as I see him try stay true to the value, you know, American values, I'm there 100%. You
Yeah.
know, but if it's not there, then I'm not going to keep my mouth closed and just say, yes, that's me, that's me, that's me. No, no, no,
Right.
no.
Yeah. And you know, like I don't think there's anything wrong for a person voting for what aligns with their values and morals, right? Like that's what makes America America, in my opinion. You know, I think we're a very diverse nation, and I think our strength lies in our variety. And I think as the more we become polarized and the more we believe that the other side is the enemy, like you're never going to get to a point where people can see eye to eye, right? And you lose,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone's so focused on issues that don't matter, right? And we could say that, like, using the gun violence argument, right? We can say that, like, okay, well, obviously gun violence is a problem, which means guns are a problem. So let's slap a band-aid and get rid of guns on and call it a fix for a problem that needs stitches. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And you know how much money America spends on the gun rights argument, both sides combined, like over $20 million, dude. $20 million that goes into gun lobbyist
It's
movements.
insane. It's a lot.
It's
It's a lot.
crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's a lot that
You know what I'm
happens.
saying? Like, and that is combined. That is pro-gun and anti-gun spending together.
Yeah.
Obviously, more money. I think the pro-gun lobbyist movement spends way more money than the anti-gun movement does, by like millions and millions of dollars. But like that's a lot of money over a conversation about guns that isn't the underlying issue for violence in America, in my opinion. What I see,
I agree 100%.
you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, okay, what are you doing? Like, instead of like spending $20 million on like the fight for gun rights, maybe use that money and like build community centers and communities, and like, I don't know, use that money to pay teachers better in like, you know, poor neighborhoods that need better teachers and better schools. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. That's just how I look at it. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it.
No. You're 100% right, dude. Like what you're saying is gold. Like this microphone, gold. You know what I'm saying? and because, like, dude, like especially like these neighborhoods where there's like these whole financial issues and everything's going on, right? Where there's a lot of poverty. If we were to pour into these neighborhoods, if we were to like pay teachers better, make teachers who want to be there, not just educate our students, but mentor students, right?
Yeah.
You know, give opportunities there. Find ways to. A lot of dads, like, how many kids or people do I know whose dads are not in the picture, and that makes a difference. Like being a dad myself, you know, I see my kids. I see what influence it carries over in my kids' life. I'm like, yo, my dad really wasn't around. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I grew up with the wrong people doing the wrong things, but I'm here help correcting my children, and I see. You know, families need a strong father, a father who's present, just like a mother. They need a mother who's strong, who's present, right?
Yeah.
So instead of arguing about it,
I want to ask you, like, since you like kind of grew up in a father's home, you just mentioned, what was your guiding force? Like, you know, like what gave you a sense of morals growing up, like that kind of like helped you stay straight, no matter like how far off you strayed from the path.
So, like, you know, my mom did her best, man. My mom really did good. I almost lost her. You know, during the whole transition, I dropped out of school because I was always taking care of my sister, you know, and then I started getting around the wrong people who, you know, I started smoking pot, had drugs come in my house, you know, had other things, all kinds of crazy. I had people tattooed to the face and everything. They'll come in the crib. My aunt, I remember she came from Ecuador. She wouldn't want to leave her room because she's like, these people look scary. You know? So, and this is like me out of high school and shit, right? My dad, I grew up really close to him, and then we had a really bad separation in my youth. Catherine, I think you remember when that whole thing went over there because I spoke to you actually. When
I've known you since like 7th grade. I know,
bro, she's known me forever. Yeah, and then, you know, me and my dad started talking back in like 2015. Like it was a ton of years, and that time there, I didn't have nobody I could speak to. Or when I lived in Ecuador, my dad wasn't there. He lived in the States. So who did I look up to? I just tried. Me personally, I was looking for a male figure. I realized that when I was older, like I've always found myself like to older men, like wanting to talk to them, wanting to do the things they did, want to hang out with them. And some of them taught me good things, man. I was very blessed, but then some others, strayed me away. What took me to start making a transition was I remember this day like yesterday, right? I was sitting down in this log, and this something personal in our family, which I can't share out of respect for the other person, had happened where I almost lost that person completely to the justice system. So that was rattling my head. So we went to North Carolina. It was me, my brother, his brother. He's like my best friend. I call him my brother. And we're sitting in the trailer park in Washington. I mean North Carolina. I don't know why I said Washington. North Carolina. Sitting in log. We're smoking pot. This guy comes out the trailer, pulls with a 45 and just starts blowing away at TV, and I'm just laughing at it. Mind you, my brother's a blood. This guy, I don't know what gang he's in, and but he's a drug dealer, and they're shooting there, and I'm sitting there. I'm just like, dude, if I stay here, I'm probably gonna be on the other side of the pistol at some point, because I grew up
Yeah.
very soft, and they were toughing me up, but not for the right reasons, right? So I'm like, I need to change something. And I've just packed my shit, went to New York. I was an atheist. When I came to New York, hardcore atheist. I hated Christians. I didn't want nothing to do with churches whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? I was just an angry dude. I was always picking fights and all this stupid shit. Until one day, I just realized, like, yo, something's got to change. Something's got to change. And I went to church. Somebody invited me to church. I went, gave my life to Christ at that point. It's been a very, very rough journey, and I love it because, I'm transparent about myself to one end with God. But that started giving me a moral compass. And then I got around one of my uncles he was an army vet. He fought in Afghanistan as well. He's a big example to me. Somebody I really look up to, and see him married for so many years. I'm like, I want that. I want that. I don't want to keep fucking around all this other shit. I want somebody I could build a fight with. So it just became, bro, self-development after that, man. Just pursuing it, just telling myself, I gotta be better. I gotta be better. And I did a lot of bad shit along the way. But that's how I found it, man. Doing bad shit, figuring it out. I don't recommend it to anybody, though. Please. You can find a mentor, Don't do shit I did, because it's a lot of slap to the faces.
That's actually a really good story, right? Like I'm not, and dude, like this is why I funny enough, one of the reasons why I got into filmmaking and the film industry is because the power that stories have, right? I mean, like, dude, humans have been telling stories since the beginning of time, bro. Like, and our stories, even in our mythology, right? Like, those have always been our guiding factors in life, right? Like, you look at like Greek mythology, all the stories they have, the hero's journey, everything like that. They teach us how to handle adversity and struggles in our life, and like what it means to be like a good human being. And like, I'm not a super religious person, but I've always respected, I grew up Catholic. So my mom was extremely Catholic, and she probably won't like me mentioning this, but one of the reasons why I would say that I'm not a practicing Catholic, I would probably say I'm more of an agnostic, like a spiritual agnostic. Like, I believe in the goodness of individuals, and I believe in humanity, and I believe that like the universe will provide, whether that's God or whatever that version is, like whatever entity is. But like, I never bash people for being religious, because like you said, that's a guiding force in your life.
Wow.
And for me to freaking step on that is so disrespectful. And I think that's like a big reason why we have so many fucking problems in America, right? Like, you see someone, right? Yeah. And like, I don't think people think about that, right? If they just took the second to talk to you and then hear that story and be like, wow, like his religion means a lot to him, because it literally, you could argue that it saved your life. In fact, I'm sure you feel like it saved your life.
Oh yeah, plenty of times. Because remember, one thing, I grew up Catholic too. And yeah, I tell people, it's like Catholicism is what made me an atheist.
Bro, but like, and so like, if they took the time to sit there, I guarantee you people would think twice to be shitting on your life. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's like where we've lost our ability to communicate with people. 100%. And I think we have lost our ability to adapt to change, and then just being okay with difference in life. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, not everyone's going to be on the same page, dude.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, why waste the energy to try to get everyone on the same page when you could just be like, well, what makes us the same, right? Like we both want the same comforts, right? We both want the same thing out of life, happiness, just to be able to live without fear of prosecution for whatever reason people feel like they to prosecute us for. And it's like, dude, there's so much power in the human story. It's ridiculous, dude.
Insane.
And
I agree.
And like as connected as we are through like social media, like everyone is telling their own stories, but no one wants to fucking listen to each other. They just want you to listen what they have to say because they want you to think like they do, and they don't respect the way you think. Exactly. And vice versa. Like it, and people don't realize that. Like I think America's like super hypocritical, man. And one of the things I look at as like a great example of hypocrisy in America is if you look at, like, let's say the George Floyd protests and January 6th.
Oh yeah, that's
right.
I could talk about that.
And it's like it's like, okay, look, you have, and I went to a George Floyd protest, and I'll tell you why I went to one. Because I was tired of seeing what other people were saying through the lens of social media. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I want to go to these events and I want to see what it's about. And I saw all kinds of shit, dude, like crazy stuff. And like, for the most part, it was actually a very positive atmosphere.
Yeah.
Now granted, like Philly went kind of crazy in the beginning of the George Floyd protests. And that was like past curfew. But like during the day, like it was actually very somber and very like a lot of unity and community. Even from like and like the police were minding their own business and stuff, but they're, like I said, it was very bad in the beginning. A lot of bad shit happened, and then the Philly Police Department kind of changed up their operating procedures to kind of not fire up the crowd, because what was happening was there was a lot of instigators, right? So there'd be an instigator on the one side, then you have Philly tough guy cop dude who's like, I'm gonna smash this motherfucker now. And again, violence begets violence, dude. Like it's true, right?
Yeah.
But then you have people on the right side of the fence watching that shit, and they're like, look at these people burning down their communities, right? Burning down their communities and blah 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 blah, right? And then they go and fucking almost stage a coup and assault the Capitol, right? Not everyone on the right, but a group of them. And that's, in my opinion, hypocrisy, American hypocrisy at its finest. It's like every side, like they see it and all they want to see is their own justification, right? But they fail to see how, like, really they're going after the same stuff, right? Some sense of personal liberty, right? Like that's where it all stems from.
Yeah, 100%. And it's crazy that you mentioned that because, like, that's something I'm constantly debating with people right now, especially on Twitter. I'm telling you, Twitter's like a war zone, man. Like a social media, like
that's why I'm not on it, dude.
I love it. I have fun on it at this point. But like I see it. It's like, look, if you ask me about the whole like situation at the Capitol, I for one, I'll tell it right off the bat. I don't agree with it, but I do believe that they're blowing it way out of proportion of what it was. Like, dude, there was footage of like FBI agents doing some funny shit, and then just on top of that, just the way they're talking about it, saying it's almost like the way they're painting it was like if the whole building was bombed and all this crazy stuff. Granted, there was some real crazies out there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I want to clarify. There was. I'm not sitting here just saying that it was all peaceful.
I say release all the footage and let the American people decide what it was.
And there's stuff coming out from the hearings right now. But my thing is, like, when it comes to them, like, look, we got to see, and I'm always talking about accountability for January 6th, but we also have to have the accountability for what happened in that summer, because that's almost forgotten for the most part, right? When I talk to these people, they just look at me like deer, like a deer looking at a oncoming car. But here's the point here's where I'm getting at with this point. Between both of them, because I've been in BLM protests myself, like back in 2016, back then. I've gotten face to face with cops. I was more of a liberal. Like I've cursed cops out in the face, all this other shit. I was stupid. But I can say that there is a common enemy in both camps, right? And that's what people are missing. And that's what I try to tell people. Like, look, I keep pointing out the BLM thing, but because of the bad that happened. But I'm also going to call out here because there was some bad shit that happened there too. But let's call it what it is. There's something that's there that's enticing problems on both sides because they want the divisiveness here.
Oh, definitely.
It's with anything, even like guns. Like there's a reason why they're pointing at guns, but they're not pointing at the mental health issues. Because you look at, I'm looking at this kid that did the shooting that killed those kids, man. It breaks my heart as a parent. It crushes my heart. I
Mm-hmm.
can't imagine the pain that goes through that's going through these parents' heads, right? But I'm looking at stuff of this the one that committed the crime and kind of his background and stuff like that, and just like there's a lot of things that don't sit well with me in that whatsoever. Right now, this is like I listen to this podcast. They always talk about like trying to put the aluminum hat, what is it? Aluminum foil hat at the moment.
Yeah,
Tinfoil.
tinfoil hat
The
on.
tinfoil
Dude.
hat on, and and I'm about to put it on right now, but it's crazy because like I'm looking at this, and I'm like only could also considering how this kid got all the shit that he got, you know, coming from a place of poverty just blows my mind, right? I mean, I wasn't there.
Credit cards, bro.
That's what I'm saying. Like I wasn't there, so I don't know. But it just like right off the back, it blows my mind. Then
Yeah.
there's definitely that kid had a mental health issue, 100% for sure, right? And how now they're trying to push different agendas on there to create more divisiveness instead of unity to fix this situation. And that's what
Yeah.
kills me. And that's the same thing with these protests and riots and all this stuff, right? It's like, when the BLM was happening, Catherine, I don't know if you saw the articles, but there was pallets of bricks just popping up.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, like out of
What?
nowhere, there were things that were staged. Like it was really weird. I'll be
And then
honest with
January
you.
6th,
That's the whole reason why I got my gun. It's
exactly.
like
And then January 6th, me too, bro. I was, dude,
Yeah.
my wife was pregnant with two
my
kids.
first gun.
Dude, my wife was pregnant with two kids. I posted something about one of the shootings regarding with an officer, and I'm like, the officer wasn't in the wrong. I genuinely don't think he was. I posted it on Facebook, and somebody was threatening, like, about spitting and killing my two unborn children. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
that's fucked.
it was crazy. But then you look at January 6th, you see the officers opening the gates amongst other shit that was happening there too, and it's like both sides. There were things that were way the fuck off.
Yeah.
And we got to really look at those situations, see like why did this happen? Why
Yeah.
were those pallets popping up? Who were these guys that weren't even?
Yeah,
from the
where they
state
come
coming here?
from, right? Like
Where
no
the
one
fuck-
knows who put those pallets there, right? Like you need
Yeah.
like you need like you need some type of logistics know-how
Yeah.
to like
You don't just
bring
drop them.
pallets of brick. Yeah, like you just don't drop pallets of bricks in the middle of the street. Like there's logistical planning that goes into that. So who's doing the logistics of that situation,
And
right? Like no one
that's
knows.
it.
No one's talking about that because we're probably so distracted and just discrediting every movement. And like here's the thing too, man. Like I'm not one of the things that bothered me a lot because we were talking about communism earlier, right? When I went to the George Floyd protest, there were individuals of the Socialist Rifle Association actively trying to recruit military-aged males. And then there was also communist movements passing out extremist propaganda
That's
as well.
insane.
And obviously, like me being who I am, and what I look like, a cisgendered white male in those environments, like I didn't quit. I gave it because I was interested. And a lot of the times, like what they're asking for is very unreasonable. It's like, okay, you want to dismantle all these systems, but what are you going to put in place for when all these things are out of the picture? Like they were like, oh, we want to see the release of all political prisoners. Like, okay, well, what does that mean? What are they in jail for? You know what I mean? And then, okay, if they are released, like what happens then? Or like, if you want to shut down like all state penitentiaries and release all prisoners, like how are you going to filter the prisoners out of there? Are you just going to let all of them out? Like, oh, it seems here that you're a pedophile, rapist, and murderer. So yeah, you're good. Welcome back to society. It's like, dude, it doesn't work like that. It's unrealistic,
Yeah, no, 100%.
And it's like kind of crazy. I should have saved it. I kind of wish I saved the paper, but like I took a look at it and I threw it out immediately. But like there are these unseen forces at these events that are encouraging discourse, or not discourse, but they're encouraging polarity and anger and instigating violence. They are out there
100%.
Now. Who they are? No, I don't fucking know who they are. I'd like to know who they are.
There's ideas
Damn, I
of
should have
people
gone to one now. I wanted to know all of that.
No, listen,
well, dude, that's what I'm
because
saying,
that's
right?
what
Like
nobody talks about.
Bro,
Nobody's
let me
talking
tell you
about
something.
any of that.
when I went to the last time I ever went to a BLM protest, it was I was in Times Square, and I went to meet up with a group of people, and I got booted out because I looked like a cop. I'm not a cop. You guys know me. I'm not a cop. And I got kicked out, and I'm like, what the fuck? Okay. Like, they were really weird, bro. These people were so fucking weird, bro. It was crazy. The way they just stood in front of me, I'm like, I'm about to get jumped. You know what I'm saying? So I walked away, and then I really started paying attention to stuff, and I was not as crazy as what he saw, but that's also stuff I'm like, all right, maybe I have to, I'll just step away, and then I just stepped away and never got involved in anything whatsoever until 2020, right?
Yeah.
And it, but Bill, I want to hear your thoughts on it because I know we're coming up to the time to wrap up soon, but I want to ask you two things, right, or cover two different things. One, these people like the communists and stuff like that, right? Like they're
Mhm.
recruiting people and all that. I believe that, and I've seen it, and it bothers me because look, this country, like it's a powerful country, right? This country has so much room to grow into things that are just unbelievable. That's good for people, right? Like there's
Yeah.
so much room for it, and that's a threat to many other people in countries as well. Now, they can't just come here and just land, hold an occupation with the military here. I mean, they're just citizens alone with weapons are just going to give them a hard time. We see how Ukraine is pushing back on Russia right now. Like, we'll give them a
Yeah.
real hard time, right? My thing is, it's like, well, if you can't do that, then what other way can you really break apart a system or a nation or country, empire, whatever you want to call it, and really start pushing other ideals in that are just anti-American, liberty or whatever it is that you want to label it, right? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because my thing is, like, I look at there's another caravan right now coming from Latin
Oh yeah.
America. You
I've
don't
seen
know
it.
who's
Yeah.
coming through there. You do
Nope.
not know who's coming through. So it makes me think
Yeah.
if that could be a legitimate invasion, right? People are coming in and they're doing all sorts of shit that doesn't need to be happening here,
Yeah.
right? What do you think on that one before I hit the next part?
So I would say this, right? Like I going back to like my first year in college, I took a world political class. And on the last essay, the final exam, there was an essay question, and it was like, justify what like social economic system is the best, right?
Mm,
Communism, capitalism, or socialism. And I was like, I'm not going to answer this question because I think it's a trick question,
mm,
because I don't think any system is better than any other one. It's only as strong as the individuals we choose to run it,
mm,
right? So communism, socialism, capitalism, they all sound great on paper, right? And but they're only as strong as the person running it. And if the person running it's a corrupt piece of shit, the system is going to be a corrupt piece of shit,
capitalism could be a bad thing
right?
with the right people, with the wrong people, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like American capitalism is can very much become a plutocracy very fast. And plutocracy, what that is a form of government that is ran by rich people, which we're very on the
Mm,
borderline of as it is already with super
yeah.
PACs and lobbyists and stuff
Yeah.
like that,
Of course.
and
Yeah.
billionaires influencing political figures. Um, I think the fastest way to fix every problem we have in America is money transparency.
Mm, mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I'd be like, where's
Yeah.
the money coming from? Where's it going? And how it's being allocated?
Oh, that'll fix a
And
lot of
like,
shit.
dude, like if you remove the veil from politics, the game would change real fast. And then the other thing I would say, like, if we put term limits on Congress members, Senate members and shit like that, and then if we and if you didn't get benefits for being a political like a career politician, and if you were, I think if you remove protections from political figures, the game would change real fast.
Oof.
Because then it's like, okay, well, I better be careful about what I do in office and make sure that I serve the people as best they can, because when I leave office, I lose my protection detail.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Dude, I'm telling you right now, like that's big. That's something I really actually think about too much, but that's bigger than a lot of people. I guarantee you that if you were to say that to majority of Americans on either side, they would agree with that.
Yeah,
Like I
except
genuinely think,
politicians.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
of course, because they don't want their shit taken, right?
Right. Well,
But
one of the things that I like what politicians say all the time, you don't need guns, but I need 12 armed guards at me at all times.
that's what I'm saying. Like, you guys are gonna be very well protected. We're over here, we're gonna be in the trenches and not very well protected,
Yeah.
right? And I got a family. I got to protect my family. You're gonna tell me I only can protect with my fist? I mean, I can't, but not everybody's carrying fists. Not
Yeah.
well, everybody's carrying fists. Let me correct that, but some people are just gonna look at my fist and be like, like, come on, let's be
Yeah,
real.
dude.
So it's crazy. Now transitioning to the second part of that, right? So I agree with all those changes, and obviously, I guess we can, I guess we can agree that there's something definitely wrong coming in the border because we don't know who's coming in. It could dismantle everything that's going on, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier on how pretty much there's no tolerance from either side to one another right now. Like that's where we're getting at,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
What I see happening in this country, if that doesn't get fixed, if people don't know how to fix that, it's like it's gonna keep bottlenecking, right? And it's gonna keep building up, building up. Like I thankfully I took a step back. I'm like, okay, cool. I want to listen to sides, and I'm not trying to get that far out. I'm pissed. I'm pissed as fuck on a lot of shit. And I know on the other side as well too. You see on Twitter, like you think if you look at Twitter and Twitter was the defining point of what will happen in this country, you think this country's going to war tomorrow. Like I kid you not. Like that's how Twitter is, right? But if you look outside of social media, it's just it doesn't really seem that that serious. So in my head, it's like I believe that if this keeps building up, there's going to be a conflict here. Unfortunate one that people not going to want, but it's just people growing that to that level of animosity against each other. Hopefully I said the right word, but
Yeah.
towards each other, and it's just gonna blow up at some point. Or I see that something happens that's a unifying moment that just starts settling the smoke or whatnot. I mean, it's kind of hard, but I'm leaning towards more. I see conflict happening. I don't want it to. I think nobody wants it to. Well, there's people that do, unfortunately, but I don't think it's something that I don't want my kids to experience, especially. But it seems crazy, right? Like it just seems like there's so much shit happening at the moment that it's just, it's bad, bro. I like to call what's going on right now a political cold civil war. That's what I like to call it.
you know, I talk about this a lot, right?
Yeah.
Because despite the things now, like I've taught martial arts for a really long time since I was 24 years old. I've been teaching kickboxing, Muay Thai. I'm a jiu-jitsu practitioner. I say it all the time. Like I practice violence so I don't have to use it. Right. I rely on my ability to de-escalate and my ability to connect and talk to people as a human being. And that's my first line of defense.
Mm-hmm.
Always that. And I practice avoidance. Like I would never put myself in a situation where I might have to take someone's life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
But to your point, I think, to quote the Wayne from Wayne from what's that show on Hulu? Letterkenny. To quote Wayne from Letterkenny, those who've been in a real fight wouldn't be so quick. Yeah, but he says something that I like a lot, where he's like, for those who've been in if you've been in a real fight, you wouldn't be so fast to pick another.
That's exactly it.
Right.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And me being someone who have seen the best and the worst that humanity has to offer, like war is fucking ugly, dude. And I think people have a misconception of what war actually fucking looks like.
Poverty, sickness, destruction, death. I mean, come on.
People have especially in America, we have a very glorified view of war and combat thanks to Hollywood movies and shit. Yeah. But, I have seen very ugly things. I have done things that humans shouldn't fucking do, take life, you know what I'm saying? And there's things that I have dealt with over time. Like I'm 70% disabled for PTSD, right? And there are things that I struggle with on and off. My PTSD is like a roller coaster. I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to go to war. I don't want to see our country fall apart. I don't have this fantasy of being like, yeah, the boogaloo, let's see our country fall apart and overthrow the government and go to civil war with each other and start a race war. Like at the end of the day, really, what the fuck is that even going to do for anybody? Right. And I can guarantee you, man, like if it would get really bad, really fast. And then people would be like, okay, this is fucked. Violence is shouldn't be the end all be all to fix your problems, right? Not in my opinion. And I don't know, man. Like I have no desire to go back and to see war or to see dead people, to see dead children, dude. Like this shit's fucked, man.
Women, look at children, babies. Yeah.
I mean, dude. All you gotta do is go and look at some of the things that are happening in Ukraine right now. That's what fucking war looks like.
You go on TikTok,
Yeah.
you see, you literally see battles happening on there. It's crazy, like the shit you see on TikTok. But that's what I'm trying to get at. It's like, do you feel that the tension being built right now could potentially lead to something like, just out of personal opinion? And
I
the
don't
reason
think so, man.
yeah.
See, here's the thing, dude. I think people like their comfort more than they like their violence, right? And their this ridiculous drive of like overthrowing the government or going to war, or starting things up. And I think the only people that have these delusions are the type of people who shoot up schools, right?
And that's and
or shoot up poor black neighborhoods in New York.
Bro, I see. It's crazy because, and the reason why I bring that up, like, there was a post a while ago. Actually, I was in a debate and with a couple of people. These were conservatives. Actually, I was debating. In this instance, somebody was talking about, it's time. We're due for another civil war, and I had commented right off the back. It's like, no, it's not. You guys gotta understand. Like, look, I don't like what's going on. I think we need a clean house. I think people need to be fucking persecuted for the shit they're doing. Like, I'll be quite frank, but to go to that level, to that degree, no, dude. Like, I don't want to experience that. Like, it's disgusting. It's sad, right? Like, all I see is just pure sadness. Like, I'm a big fan. Like, I love watching like movies like Saving Private Ryan, Black Hawk Down. Like, those are cool to watch on TV. But if just thinking about the fact to be in a situation like that, it's not cool. Leave it on TV.
Man.
It's not cool. It's not cool. And having a debate, and there was people like coming on both sides. People agreed. People were disagreeing. When I was looking at the people disagreeing, I'm like, dude, I don't know who these people are, but I'm pretty sure most of these people never put themselves or been in a situation where a life was taken or where their adrenaline just fucking comes in, so like you don't even know what the fuck you're gonna do, right? Like, just the panic kicks in. They must have never experienced that for them to want to express that it's time for something like that, right? However, then I look at the people now. I'm seeing people on the left. They're like, it's time to just get rid of these, like, pretty much people on the right side, right? So there's conflict there, and this is where I'm getting. That's like, I see that conflict being built up. People talking, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, right? But they're talking about it, and it's like, at what point does it become it boils enough where it just, all people like ourselves are like, yo, just chill, put the brakes on it, but they're just putting the gas on. I was like, yo, what the fuck?
I think what we'll see is, if we see any type of revolution, I think what we'll see is a political revolution. I think we'll see more concerned citizens getting involved with politics, more independence. And that's really what America needs. America needs more moderates and independents, that are in the running for president and political offices. That's really what's going to help change the fact. And I think we should change the way our voting process is done. I think we should have more people to vote for than just two individuals for the White House. And I think we should have more than just Democrats and Republicans. I think that every party should have a voice in Congress and Senate or wherever people make decisions. And I also think, like, what the fuck is up with Puerto Rico not having a representative or any choice in what is made in terms of American policy? Like, it's American territory. They have a person who just shows up and doesn't have anything, like their opinion isn't weighed in any way. But like that's kind of fucked.
Puerto Rico,
what I mean?
Rico, look, let me tell you, like, I got, my wife her family's all Puerto Rican. I know a ton of Puerto Ricans, right? What they need is a fucking clean, just like we need on our side, a clean house of what's going on over there, because they just, they got a mess over there too.
Well, I know that like their funds were being misused.
Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot of shit. But you know what? That typically happens in countries like that. Like, it's just not Puerto Rico. Countries like that, we just tend to have a huge amount of corruption. I mean, even us, we're facing that right now too, right? What you said was big. Having that political change, right? Because look, I'm always open to it. Hey, I vote Republican. I'm supporting it because that leads more towards my values. But if you really get to know me, like, I was talking to a friend who's a Democrat, and they're like, it's crazy because, like, I say this, and I was really put there more by the left because I disagreed with their shit, right? But in reality, it's like, dude, like, just leave me, I just want to live my life. Leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah, man. I mean,
more in the middle. Like, I'm like, look, I believe we should. I believe we should own firearms. We should be able to exercise that. I personally don't believe abortion is a good thing, but that's an individual right. I'm not going to interfere with that. That person, at the end of the day, shit like that, like just like me, I got to answer to God when I, whatever you believe, I got to answer to God at the end of the day, not for them.
That's
for
how
me,
I look
right?
at it, dude. That's how
Yeah,
I look
so
at it.
exactly. So I'm not gonna, and I told Catherine this too. I'm like, I don't agree with it, but I'm not gonna put my foot in that like that. As
Yeah,
long
it's
as me,
not
I
my
just
right
don't
to
want.
tell you what you
Yeah,
should be doing.
I just don't want my taxpayer money to go into that. That's just me for
Right.
my
Yeah.
beliefs,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And amongst many other things, I'm like, that's where we relate. And there's a lot of people who feel the same exact way, dude. So many people feel the same way. When I look at like the Republican Party and Democratic Party, who was it that put it? I think it was Andrew Yang. I'm not crazy over him. I do have him on Twitter. He had to mention how silly the idea of two parties is, right? And I'm like, it is. It really is. As a matter of fact, I might be crazy enough to say this should just be one, and different ideas. We vote for the person. I mean, how realistic is that? I don't know. But there are red flags that come up too. Like, in these heavy multiple parties, you hear where it's like, we just did a video actually not too long ago, an episode, and we were doing research on like democracies and republics and why, in our constitution, democracy wasn't mentioned, or why we're not a democracy. We have some influences of that here, but we're a
Oh, we're
constitutional
a
republic.
republic. America's
Yeah,
a republic.
exactly. So I'm saying, but
Yeah.
we're what they call a constitutional republic, right?
Yeah.
Which is two different things, And I see all those red flags there. I'm like, this is just because there's too many different things coming into. It's like a melting pot of shit coming
Yeah.
together. It's
So
like
a true democracy, everyone has a voice, but in a republic, we have elected officials that are our voice, right?
mm,
And that's like the people who make decisions and shit like that, and we vote for those people, like people in the House and the Senate and all that shit. Is that I don't know, dude.
it's
I
pretty
should
much
probably know.
no.
Like I should probably.
it's pretty much what you're saying. It is. You
Yeah.
know why? Because like, look, democracy, if I'm being quite honest, on paper it sounds awesome, right? Like we all have a voice and all that, but in reality, if you really think about it, or even in action, like you see some of these big empires, like I believe the Greeks, Rome are perfect examples.
Yeah.
How they fell into democracy and they collapsed off of that, and there's many other examples. That's why, like our founding fathers, there's a quote, I think it was Benjamin Franklin, which, side note, I just found out. So you ever heard of the kite experiment, where Benjamin Franklin was with the kite?
Yeah.
That's right down the block from my apartment.
Oh,
I don't know why I had
nice.
to mention, it was fucking dope. Okay, so back to what I'm saying. But there was, they were having this event. Shit, I forget what the name. I had a brain fart. Essentially, somebody asked them, "It's like, what you guys come up with, like in a form of government?" And what was said is a republic if you can keep it, right? And that's a strong message, right? Because there's a republic stands strong. We could vote for representatives who speak for us. The problem with republic is, though, like we're seeing now, is that if we're not exercising those rights and getting those right people in, anybody
Well, they're not
gets in.
speaking for us anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And the wrong people come in and start doing all kinds of shit. But dude, we gotta wrap up now because we're coming up here. But yeah, I enjoyed this, man. I definitely enjoyed this. If it's cool with you, I would love to have you on sometime again. I know,
Oh yeah, dude.
Catherine.
This was cool.
I think the last thing I want to leave off is what rifle should Catherine get? Because we're she's saying Danny Defense. I say fuck it, just put your own together.
Listen, I mean, dude, a Danny D is a great rifle. Like, you're not gonna go wrong with that rifle. I mean, me personally, what I would go for is a Bravo company manufacturer BCM
like
rifle.
BCM, yeah.
That's what I would go with.
that.
I think they're the best gun you can get for their money. They're a great mid-tier gun. Their products are phenomenal. And that thing will run forever, great products. Aero Precision, that's another great company. I prefer to build off Aero platform, but if you're looking for a complete rifle from the get, BCM all the way, in my opinion.
There you go.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna stay with my little Honda Civic of PSA until I could get myself my BCM and whatnot. But dude, thanks for coming on, bro. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
This was fun, man. I definitely loved hearing this conversation. I gotta get to one of your courses again, so we can have more of these conversations. Yeah, guys, if you guys are listening to this add value, this something you guys want to hear, do you guys want to see Bill again? I know we're very small, but we're gonna grow. And you guys hear this, just give us the like button, just give us a shout, man, and we'll make it happen. So you guys take care.